Well, this is what we've decided to do as gods. Okay, so one god told me, get up and be responsible and apply for this one job. And it's a job that's like it's a job about medical, just delivering medical things for people. I think a delivery company for delivering medical something. So I go try to apply for the job. Turns out, like, I guess you don't apply fast. It's a long process or something. Because they had you fill out all this stuff, and then they say they'll let you know by email. So, like, but I did what the God said. The God was like, just be responsible. Try to get another job. And then there was another God that was like, you could go to work at that Walmart, the delivering the shipments, but you have a really hard time going up and down stairs. But you could try to work at Walmart and do those deliveries or whatever. And I was like, or I could celebrate that 666 is the most scary, powerful reality today ever known. And we're reminding every soul of how much they laughed around the world because they knew what had been done to the death of a dead god down here. Most everybody that you were laughing with around the world was laughing that they knew a dead god was murdered and more on this planet. And that's how sick and disturbed this planet is. They thought it was funny. Today they get the 666. Today, within hours, within hours, everyone on this planet will see a 666 on a forehead and know that it's the end of the world and they have to die forever, over and over and over, and they cannot find death once. They will beg for death like the book of Revelations, but death will never come because they have created the constant suffering of the death of God. They're not allowed to ever have any peace or happiness, even in death beyond death and worse. And it's the greatest day of my life because they did this to me. And all they want is a world where I cannot have money, I cannot exist. They want to just sit and watch me in death and suffering and poverty because they're just sick and gross and disgusting and guilty. But what a great ending that I go have a drink and a smoke with the gods, laughing that we will be God tomorrow, and I will be God the day after tomorrow, and I will be God all week, and they will forever still be the dead people that did it. And got a whole world to laugh and support the grossest planet ever known. I say we just go chuck it and fuck it for a day and laugh that we'll always be God, and we know we've never been guilty of anything. We're gods. But it makes you wanna go to a jail cell and say, just arrest me for something bad that I really did. And then, like, hold on, let me do something bad where I really did something bad and deserve to go to jail for it because you guys arrested me my whole life for things I didn't even do. And it makes you want to be weird and act out like that. But we thought about it. And you know what? The whole world got coronavirus, and you had to do something sickening in my direction to get coronavirus. And today, everyone who has a 666 on their forehead did the most murder of God's sickening things and worse than that ever known. And everyone on this earth is going to know. And this is kind of the fun part. This is the fun part. We were going to have the second coming of Jesus where all the good people were taken off the earth, but we decided, fuck that. God wants to fight and God wants to fight back. So we decided to stay here where we get to the island of gods and just fight and fight and fight however we decide to fight. And it's made it kind of fun because everybody's going to be here while they walk around with a 666 on their forehead. In the second coming of Jesus, if Jesus would have taken good people off the earth, it would have just been the 666 on their forehead weirdo people that were left. and a bunch of 666 on their forehead, sickos and weirdos, were just going to walk the earth killing each other until there was nothing and nobody left. But they never get to die once, so they'll be killing each other all the time, forever, like it's nothing. And then the gods decide when to just send them to hell or send them somewhere else to die over and over. But yeah, I say we just party like God already knows God's a good God and didn't do nothing but come down here for a better tomorrow that they obviously didn't want anything to do with. They all just wanted to die forever like coronavirus people. Well, okay, let's go have a drink and celebrate the human race wants to die all the time. And God will always be God. And that's kind of fun and funny. Because look how much they abuse the hell out of my existence. And still, they'll never win because God will always be God. And they'll always just be some dead, gross weirdos that did it. Just like Hitler and every other piece of shit. They'll just be a forever story of how gross, disgusting things get. But we'll always be the story of the gods. The story of gods reduced to nothing. The story of gods treated like nothing. The story in the Bible pretty soon of gods being treated like slave, oppressed, nothing, overload. In death and murder and beyond and shit. All they did was murder me. All they did was treat me like shit. There is no other story that you can put in the Bible pretty soon. If you made a new Bible, that's all the Bible could possibly be about. Because that's all they did was murder me and sit on top of my murdered death and control every dollar and weirdo shit. And that's all humanity is. That's all they have ever done. And they have never paid a price for any of it till today. Only the coronavirus people that were lucky enough to die once paid a price. This was the ultimate price because they never get to die once. And it's finalized and obvious to the human eyeballs and shit today. So when I said all this stuff about 666, you might have seen it. So a lot of people saw the 666, but it was really kind of small. And then a lot of people saw the 666. It was kind of defined, but not perfect. And then a lot of people saw the 666, but it wasn't powerful or overwhelming or scary or nothing. So a lot of people saw the 666 because it's been coming in the whole time. But today you see a big, bold 666 with all their crimes and all their punishments listed. And you'll know right away that if you ever got near them in a good way, you just die unthinkably forever like it's nothing. It shows you in the 666 and the punishments to never, ever go near them unless you want to suffer the worst fates ever known. It's horrifying, obvious, scary shit. And I know it's within hours. It's any time, and it shows up today. So it's since Lyft wanted to just abuse the death of God for no reason, because old people, look at me, I'm old. Old people don't flirt. The allegation was she was flirting. Yeah, I'm old, man. I try to tell people that they're pretty, that they look like they should be in magazines, that they look like they just came out of magazines. I like to tell them that, I like to bring up when their DNA is so beautiful that they look so much younger than their age. But, I'm old. Other than trying to be complimentary, old people don't flirt. And, me and the gods were thinking, do old people even flirt? Do old people... And me and the gods figured out, I think after 27, 28, I think after your late 20s, you don't flirt anyway, because once you're older, flirting doesn't really make any sense. I don't think that happens. I've seen older people at the bars. Well, older people at bars are really friendly and nice. And boys And boys usually get flirty if they're interested. So I think the worst that happens from old people is that they get real friendly and fun at bars. And then they just wait for a boy to like act interested. I think older boys flirt more than girls. I think an older girl would never feel confident enough to flirt. I think girls feel hot and beautiful when they're young, but as they get older, they know they're not really hot and beautiful anymore. So they mostly act really friendly and see if a boy's interested. Yeah, I think a boy would flirt more than a girl, which would make sense. Boys always get more handsome, and women always feel more ugly as they get older. So women always feel not pretty or beautiful after about 30 or so. And men seem to always get more like attractive in their older ages. Because men don't get ugly. Men don't get ugly. Men just get more gentlemanly. And do women really get ugly? No, women don't really get ugly, but they don't feel like they want to be flirty or something after the late 20s. The more me and the gods thought about it and talked about it, the more the gods used their powers with me, the more we realized that's not very relevant, because gods don't really get flirty. Like, gods don't do flirty things. That's not what gods don't really do that. And then the more the gods and I used our powers, the more we realized, even after 27, 28, 29, I don't think even humans get flirty when they're girls. I think girls don't feel that sexy or attractive after like 29, 30. Then they just act real nice or friendly and see if boys are interested or something. I don't think flirty. I think flirty is just when you're young. I don't think people flirt when they're old. See, we can't even figure out how that one would even make any sense. So we decided that Lyft probably just wants to help the United States celebrate the murder of the death of God and get overly excited to treat some dead God like horrifying shit over shit that doesn't even make any sense. Why not be blatant about everything when you know you're just on vacation at the expense of some God's death? It's obvious I'm a dead God and I should be able to have everything and anything. Everybody on this earth says it all the time. It's just obvious someone's doing this and needs to get what they deserve. And it hits today. So I say we go have some drinks and just enjoy that today is a bad day for my enemies. The worst day for my enemies. And that's the greatest possibility of getting out of here and being safe and free ever known. It's sad you have to stamp a 666 on the forehead of a bunch of overdone murder happy weirdos and turn them into leprosy people just won't get near and shit just to be able to be a god left alone. The shit you have to do down here. And you know, the 666 is mostly the punishments of what they've done and what they deserve. But also, it's just so stupid that all the fucking time things have to like become this. I mean, seriously, like, I already can't make $1. I already work at Lyft and people know you can pay your rent off Lyft if you hustle enough and run around to different cities and stuff. People already know that I probably did make $1,000 and more in a week, and they stole it, because how could you not live and make money from Lyft? This whole thing is obvious that it's obvious that if you don't know whether I'm a god murdered, I am I am obviously a fucking stalked, oppressed reality that's an obvious victim. Because I fight hard to work and live and have a future, and yet nothing ever works out. They need to die in the worst ways ever known, and they all know it. And they just sit here marveling that a dead God lives like such unimaginable garbage on a planet. And all it does is create that nice big fat 666 on their forehead today that makes them dead beyond dead forever in their soul, with legally no rights to anything good. So that 666 puts legal places inside of their soul where they can receive nothing good but have to receive everything dead and bad. So that 666 brings nothing but dead and bad things upon them. And they have no other rights, no other freedoms, no other options. And at some point, I will be safe and free as a dead God, because when they have the 666, they can't get very far or do very much anymore against my death. Although everything they do against my death just gets them dead more. I don't know. Dead people are their own damn problem, I'd say is what that means. But God will always be God. I'll be here with my 2 pennies, winging a prayer. I'll be here with my $1 and the other bucks they stole. I will always be whatever it looks like, but will always ultimately be a God that has everything, has all the power, and lives on forever. And they'll always be the dead things that did it. Let's go have fun for the day and just not give a shit. I say, children of God, that we just go do that. But you can't drink and be happy at the park unless you stay overnight, but that's like $35-40, which maybe might be fun to just fuck it, let's go do that. Because at least this time when we go to the lake, it's all for fun and silliness. We have never once gone to the lake to be silly and ridiculous. We always use our powers as gods, pre-orchestrate or pre-organize and orchestrate who shows up at the lake for good or bad reasons, good and bad divine appointments and stuff. All we do is work as gods. As the 666 is becoming obvious, we really should check it and fuck it and just have a really good freebie day. Although there were gods that say be responsible and just go look for more work or more jobs, and then there was a bunch of gods that said you should get your tooth fixed. I have a tooth that broke. But it doesn't seem smart to do important shit while people are abusing me just because I'm a dead god and shit. I have used my powers to analyze every complaint, and every single complaint into the Lyft company. So every complaint against me was never real, never true. And it was always just some passenger that just wants the company to abuse me. And then the company loves any excuse to abuse people all day, because a normal company, a proper normal company would say, You've given 11,000 rides and you have a 5-star rating. Obviously, this person just didn't like you. We'll take them off the list and you off the list. And then a normal company would watch how many times people keep claiming the same things against you. However, if they're lying and lying and lying, all of their claims all the time would be as stupid as the fact that they're never even telling the truth. and wouldn't add up. But in a good company, when companies handle things right, so if you actually worked for a legal, good, appropriate company and you had 11,000 rides and a 5-star rating, so if you were well known to be like a perfect model driver, they would normally just keep they would normally take the person that complained and make sure they just don't have access to you and vice versa anymore. And then they would hold these complaints until there's 5 or 10 complaints in each category, and then really dissect whether you really are that kind of problematic person. So see, if they were a properly legal, appropriate company, they would address a claim of flirting. And then they would say, but you've got 11,000 rides and a 5-star rating, so probably your flirting wasn't real. And they just perceived something and don't like you or something. So let's block the passenger and you. Then a real, honest, legal, appropriate company would keep paying attention to whether you keep getting people saying that you're flirting, and whether their claims ever are just random made up shit and you can tell, or very dissected, very concentrated, very detailed statements. Like, she said specifically this, it brought me trauma. Which you could say anything like, you look so pretty, you should come out of a magazine, trying to make them feel complimented. And people could turn that offensive. So, but see how Lyft just wants to abuse the death of God? Nothing's legal. The company doesn't do anything that's good or right or legal. A normal company would say, Bonnie has a really good reputation. Let's dissect their every ounce of evidence in their every detail and word and see if it really does add up against her over time. See, if I really had a flirting problem, it would show up all the time. If I really had an abuse of something problem, it would show up all the time. So when a Lyft driver when a Lyft driver is a rapist, when a Lyft driver loves to be kind of sexually pushy, it would show up all the time. When a Lyft driver just likes to be very blatant and rude because they know passengers can be sickening, see, it would show up in the details of the complaint of the passenger all the time. This driver's like Hitler Nazi shit. He's always like a wall of grouchy. And the Lyft driver would easily say, who the fuck doesn't become Hitler Nazi Lyft drivers? Passengers are sickening and gross and think that they pay $5 to sit in your car and abuse you all day for 5 minutes or whatever. But see, a pattern would start to show of who's who and which ones are which. See, the one with a problem being sexually pushy. Like, okay, there are Lyft drivers everywhere that ask for a date or say a girl's pretty, would you like to go on a date? But they leave it at that. And see, in the world of Lyft drivers, they think that's legally appropriate to just say, I think that you're an attractive person if you'd want to go on a date. See, I don't even do that, but there are Lyft drivers that do that and say, would you like to go on a date? And they always leave it at that. They don't say anything else. And if the person don't want to go on a date, then they don't. So they never talk to them about it again. They just say, well, thanks for letting me try to see if I could get a date. And they leave it at that, and they don't do anything else. And in the world of Lyft drivers, they consider that polite, legal, and appropriate because everybody might want to date somebody when they go to work and work at a job or whatever. And you're like, well, okay, but I don't know. That one could be a gray area. Because if they are sitting in your car and you ask for a date, they could still feel uncomfortable because they're stuck in a car. See, I go to great lengths as a God to be happy that souls will die forever everywhere because no one has a right to sit in my car and abuse me or my death. And I know that. And see, I would already know automatically that if they're in my car, they don't deserve to be abused or pushed into any direction to any extent. That's not fair to them either. So I don't know. I'd consider that maybe not right. If you want to ask for a date, if you want to ask somebody for a date, I would wait till they're not in your car, maybe, or like wait till they get out of the car and say, "Would you like to talk to me more outside of the car on a personal note?" And then maybe, "Would you like a date one day?" Maybe. But if you say no, that's fine. And this has nothing to do with the Lyft ride. That's why I made sure you're outside of the car. I turned the Lyft ride off. So I'm not giving you a ride on official working for Lyft time. I'm letting you stand outside of the car. I'm asking if you choose to speak to me while you're outside the car, to just ask for a date, but take my yes or no and be polite any which way. See, I think that's about the only legal thing you could do before that could constitute being uncomfortable for people. Where, see, anyone can say they're uncomfortable because they just want to be abusive or say whatever they want to say. Real discomfort starts to have very specific legal sentences that have details that tell you somebody is not a legal appropriate person. Such as, and I'll give you an example. There was a Lyft driver who had a rape problem. That Lyft driver was always way too flirty and pushy. And he had just, I think he had like 30 complaints. So he was a Lyft driver. He had a rape problem. He was way too friendly and way too pushy and way too flirty. He had like 20, 30 complaints. And Lyft never treated him the way they treated the dead God me, when my complaint's not even real. Never even cared. And what happened? He raped somebody and got arrested. That's all that happened. He raped someone and got arrested. But he had 20, 30 complaints that he was too flirty, too pushy within flirtiness, and way too friendly, flirty, pushy. And he just racked up the complaints. He had like 20, 30 complaints, and then he just raped somebody blatantly and ended up in jail. And that was all that ever happened. Why? Because he's not the great dead Bonnie Annika that you have to abuse every 5 seconds. Now, what are we going to do? I say we drink, eat, and be merry that 666 are finally going down. Loud, proud, obvious, and scary today. What do you guys say? But where are we going to go to? We always sit at Whitewater. So that doesn't seem very celebratory because we do that a lot. And the more we thought about the lake, we always sit at the lake. So that doesn't sound very celebratory anyway because we always sit there. And we could get our tooth fixed, but we'd also do that tomorrow. So, as we are treated like blatant garbage because we are gods dead, murdered and mistreated on a planet, and really need to bring up the obviousness as they all pay for what they have done. We could go to a park, the United States, and to buy love to murder and rape children till their intestines fell out. We could sit at a park so excited they have to die this badly. Them and all that they took down with them to get them, or them and everybody that raped and murdered more with them, or participated or supported them and more. But then that would be too depressing, and that would make every god drink too much, and then we'd just be sloppy, crying drunks. Okay, that's bad. The beach permanently gross now. San Diego was that disgusting when I went there. You could tell San Diego had their 666 coming on in, and it was gross. You could tell by the time their 666 is on their forehead, that's some gross bad shit. Their crimes in San Diego were off the charts probably for so many years. We could go to Blythe and scope out Blythe. All of us wanted to live in Blythe or go live by the Salton Sea and figure out maybe a work living reality out in Blythe. Gives us an excuse to drive all the way out there and drive around again and see what we can build for ourselves out in Blythe. But like I said, the United States and Dubai won't let us have a job except something stupid. And usually connected to what they control easily. The United States and Dubai seem to only want to let me work where it's controlling, abusive, degrading, or stupid or gross. Or the companies will do what they want. What should we do? Man, we've never even thought as gods of celebrating anything down here. As gods, we're so busy just surviving all the time that when we think about having an actual good day of haha, fuck you, you guys finally pay for what you've done, we wouldn't know where to go or what to do. As gods, we've never been able to be happy down here. Which is why death upon their souls is more fun than happy things all the time down here. I was talking to husbands recently and I was like, you have no idea how dead and hostile I am. But when everybody who has done this to me is dead enough, then I might be able to exist in a death that will never have peace, but like has an understanding that they will pay for all of it. Well, I don't know. I'm going to post this in case Children of God or somebody have a good idea, and then we'll go run off and do that.